Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to the Grit, Grace, and Growth podcast, where we're sharing inspirations, ideas, personal stories to hopefully make your day a little bit better. Host Ken Signs, as always, and I am joined by my very good friend and my co-host, Kim Carroll. Kim, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Ken.
So we're going to do something a little bit different today, and to explain all that, I am just going to let control of the wheel and put Kim in charge of Starship Podcast here.
We're going to do something a little bit different or a lot different today. We're going to reverse roles here, and we are going to interview the famous Ken Signs and get a little bit of a deeper understanding and knowledge of who he is and how he operates and what he's been doing in his life and what makes him special as far as being our host here on the podcast. I think that he may not see it in himself, but I feel like he has a lot to offer, and I'm really excited to hear his story today too.
Thanks. Your check will clear, I promise. Yeah, so I'm excited. Yeah, I guess if people have had to hear me talking this whole time as they've been listening, they should probably hear what type of just horrible person I really am.
I don't think you're a horrible person. We're going to prove that wrong today.
Sometimes if I work really hard, I can just get up to terrible instead of horrible.
We're going to share it all today.
Yeah.
All the behind the scenes stories are going to come out.
So to ease us into that, our two truths and a lie today will be about me.
Sounds good.
Kim originally was going to come up with ones for me, but I don't like to play guessing games. So I decided I'd come up with a couple for myself. So two of these are true about me and one is a lie. So are you ready?
I'm totally ready.
All right. I was the first person from my father's entire side of the family to go to college. I have never broken a bone. Or I was the first, so I played lacrosse and I coached lacrosse. I was the first player who had played lacrosse in Pittsburgh to then become the head coach of a Pittsburgh high school lacrosse team. So that I was the first person in my dad's family to ever graduate college, that I've never broken a bone, or that I was the first player from Pittsburgh to become a Pittsburgh high school head coach.
I think I already know the answer to this. And
okay. Is it because we've had this discussion before?
We have.
Oh, no. Well, you know what? So it might be, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So I know that you have told me that you have never broken a bone in the past, but recently I also know that you broke your finger very bad from your lovely puppy dog in some way, and it was pretty serious and very crooked, and you had to go through some physical therapy. So I'm going to say the lie, as of now, is the broken finger.
Yeah, so you're right. And I should have realized we had to actually postpone a recording because I had to go to a specialist to get my hand looked at. So I actually kind of did the falling down on this one. I thought about making the lie originally. So I was the first person from my dad's side of the family to go to college, to graduate from college, to get a master's degree. I thought about making the lie that I was the first person from either side of my family because the only person who beat me from my mom's side of the family was my mom.
Okay.
But I thought that would have been a good one. But then I realized I always told people I never broke a bone, and now I have a nice fractured finger.
How is your finger? Is everything healing well?
It's still, folks, you can't see it at home, but I'm trying to show Kim here. That's about as straight as I can get my finger right now.
Wow. What happened?
So we got a new dog in December. He is a wonderful, sweet little boy named Anakin. He is also full of energy, really strong, and completely blockheaded. So basically, I went to grab him, and I got my finger into his collar, and then he kind of went left, twisted, and then went right, and just pulled my finger all the way back and fractured it.
Oh,
so it's actually not, that's the other thing too. I guess actually, technically I don't have I've never broken a bone. I got a fracture. And I think there is a medical difference, but I'm considering this to be my first ever broken bone.
I would agree with you. I'm not sure what the definition is as far as fracture to broken bone, but.
And it was actually a very minor fracture. The problem is I didn't get it addressed right away, and it being broken and healing on its own did some ligament damage. So I'm actually, the fractured finger is not a problem at all. It's my ligaments the reason I can't bend my finger is because the ligaments are so tight and so stretched out and damaged that they're not working correctly. So that's why I'm going to all sorts of specialists and weird therapists because I let it go too long. And I actually said, I'm like, if I'd have got this looked at quicker, would it have been better? And they're like, yeah, awesome, great.
Lesson learned, right?
Yeah. So next time my dog tries to kill me, I'll seek medical attention a little bit quicker.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen again, and hopefully the therapy is able to help you.
But yep, so those are, and then I do like to tell people I was the first player from the first guy who had played lacrosse in Pittsburgh to become a head lacrosse coach in Pittsburgh, which is sounds impressive. But when I played, there were the year I started playing lacrosse, there were only 8 teams, so there weren't a lot of head coaching positions.
Yeah,
I think now there's 50 some teams in Pittsburgh.
that's
It's come a
great.
long way in the past few years.
That's great. My daughter played Libby, my middle daughter. She played in high school and
I remember that.
loved it. And I think it's a great sport for everybody to get into and have an opportunity to play. So it's really
Yeah,
cool.
my both of my nieces are playing right now, or
Great.
two of my 2 younger nieces. I have 3 nieces. One just graduated from Pitt, or just graduated from high school and is going to Pitt, and then the other 2 are playing lacrosse right now. So that's I've been getting to go to a lot of youth lacrosse games, which is something I thought I would never do unless I was getting paid for it, but here I am.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. Very cool. All right, let's keep moving on. Let's hear a
I'll tell you
word
what,
from our sponsor first.
I was gonna say before we do that, we should hear from some very lovely, intelligent woman who has some great things to share with us.
Are you ready to step into the spotlight and take the lead of your financial future? It's me, your host, Kim Carroll, and I really hope you've enjoyed listening and are inspired by the stories you hear on my Grit, Grace, Growth podcast. Your stories inspire me every day. If you feel like you've really gotten to know me and you want to find out more and how we can work together, I specialize in guiding individuals, businesses, and families towards their financial goals with personalized advice and holistic strategies. Whether you're planning for retirement, looking to grow your investments, or simply want a clearer roadmap for your financial journey, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Don't wait. Visit www.kimcarrollcrc.com now to learn more and easily schedule a meeting. That's www.kimcarroll.crc.com in order to learn more. Kimberly Carroll offers securities using the following business name: Emeritus Investment Company, LLC, or AIC, member FINRA and SIPC. AIC is not affiliated with Grit, Grace, Growth podcast.
Okay, bringing it back in. We're going to switch gears and hopefully I do a good job as far as hosting. This is definitely not a comfort for me to be doing all the questions, but hopefully everything goes smoothly. So, Ken, you and I have been friends for a pretty long time. I want to say that it's been at least 13 years since we've known each other.
I was gonna say round about guess at 15, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you've got a great wife and a great family and you've had a great journey as far as different things that I've watched you do and different jobs that you've had. And so I want to give you the opportunity to share your story and share where you've come from and what adversity you've gone through in your life and to just tell us about where you are today. And I would love to celebrate you today. So that's what I want to hear about where you have come from and all of the good things that have led you to where you are.
So I appreciate all the nice things you said. I don't know if they're true, but I guess we'll find that out. As we have people on and have been talking to people, in most of the cases, there's been like a single word that they've been able to describe their journey, whether it's perseverance or whatever. So I was thinking like, what would be a word that would describe my journey? And I think the big thing about me is, did you watch Friends? The TV show Friends?
Bits and pieces. Not I was
Did you,
never a religious watcher.
there's a real famous episode, or a bit in an episode where they're trying to move a couch up some stairs.
Okay.
And Ross, David Schwimmer's character, keeps saying pivot, to turn and pivot. And he just keeps going pivot. And he keeps saying it louder. And then they finally lose it on him. It's a really funny scene. And anyone who's listening watches Friends, you know the pivot scene. But I think pivoting has been the word to best describe my story. I've always had plans and ideas of what my life would be and where it would go and how it was supposed to go. And I don't think at any point it's actually gone in any of those directions. And my wife, Kelly, and I talk all the time about how even we're going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary pretty soon. And throughout that 20 years, things haven't went the way we planned in almost every circumstance. But, you know, it's been, we say all the time, but it's pivoting to what will make sense then. And just as an example, we were 2, 3 years ago, we were looking at moving. We've been in the same house for almost 20 years now since we got married. And we were saying it's time to find something a little bit different, not necessarily bigger, but just differently laid out, different yard, little stuff like that. And when we went looking, that's when the rates were just insane, and people were having trouble finding. And we were going to houses and looking at houses that I'm like, I wouldn't trade our house straight up for this house, and they want $350,000, $400,000 for it. So we decided, you know what, we're just going to stay where we are for now, and we're going to fix our place up a little bit more. So since then, we fenced in our backyard and made it incredibly private. We got a hot tub, different furniture, just like little stuff like that. All the stuff we were looking for in a different place, now we have in this place for obviously a lot less money. Our intention was completely to change houses. But when it didn't seem like that was a plan that made as much sense, then we pivoted to something else, and we found a result that works for us. And that's kind of been my whole life. I consider myself a jack of all trades, master of none type. Although egotistically, I'll tell you there's a few traits that I have mastery of, but I've worked in media, I've worked in education, and I currently work in nonprofits and have for a number of years. And my background is not really in education or in nonprofits. My training, my education, it's just places I've pivoted to because it was a good opportunity or leaving a bad opportunity. And just not, if you would have said to me when I was a little kid, when I was in high school, what are you going to be doing at age 50? I would have had a really hard time drawing up this life for me. But I'm very happy with this life. It's not perfect. And there's stuff that upsets me. There's a lot of stuff that upsets me. I have a hair trigger with stuff, but I'm very grateful for what I've been able to accomplish, what I have. And not saying because I'm very grateful that I've done so much. I'm just very grateful for the life that I and Kelly and my family and my friends have been able to make. I know how lucky I am. And I especially know how lucky I am considering the amount of work that I put into it, which sounds weird, but I'm not a super hard worker. I'm not my mother, my father, my grandfather, Kelly, my wife, they're all nose to the grindstone, hardworking people. And I was always, hard work seems like a lot of work. How can I figure out a way to not bust my ass and and honestly, it's that idea of work harder or work smarter, not harder. And I don't know that I've necessarily worked smarter, but I've found enough shortcuts and workarounds and other ways and just show up and get by on charm and a good joke sometimes. But it's weird because I will tell you, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good at this. I think I'm smart. I think I'm funny. I think whatever. But I don't think there's anything exceptionally special about me that is something that I kind of hang my hat on. So this is what I'm wonderful at. I just think you just kind of show up every day and figure out a way to make it work, and then show up again the next day and figure out a way to make it work. And there's not one way to make it work. It doesn't have to be my grandfather working his fingers into claws as an electrician. That was the way he made his life work. And my mother was a nurse. That's the way she made her life work. And I've just danced through life like Fiyero from Wicked in a lot of cases. And I don't consider myself brainless, but I definitely have tiptoed through the raindrops a lot in my life. And I acknowledge and appreciate the fact that I've been lucky and able to do that. My life has been equal parts getting a lot of opportunities and then seizing the hell out of them when I do. I don't necessarily, and I want to be like, I'm honest about myself. So you're going to hear a lot of self-deprecation here, but I'm grateful for the opportunities I've been given because I don't go out and grind for those opportunities like some people do. My gift or my ability is that when I'm handed an opportunity, I will knock it out of the park normally. All I need is a little bit of luck and I'll be okay. And to my great happiness, I've been given a good amount of luck in my life. But I've also had a lot of crappy stuff happen too. And it's the same thing. I try not to get too high about the good stuff because I know a part of it's just luck and part of it's just how life's going to happen. You try not to get too low about the bad stuff because, again, a lot of it's luck and a lot of it's how life is just going to happen. So I don't know if that really answered anything about my story, but it's more of a preamble to give you an idea of the inner workings of the dark and twisted place that is my mind. And also to let you know that when you ask questions, you're going to get long rambling answers back out of them. So I want to set the tone for engagement here.
Hopefully we can keep it within a 45-minute
Yeah,
setting.
I'll still, even though I'm not hosting, I'll still keep my eye on the clock.
Okay. I love what you're sharing, because what I hear in the words pivoting is resilience. And that's such a strength to be able to have. And I realize and recognize that you're probably not going to see some of these things within yourself. And sometimes it's nice to hear it from somebody else to say, that's really cool. And a lot of attribution can be made to you as far as being able to do that, because not everybody is. And so I think that the fact that you've been able to pivot and strategize and choose different paths is an incredible strength to you. And I love that you've had these opportunities to shine in that way. I love the aspect that you have said that it's working smarter, not harder, because so many times in life, so many of us think that we have to work harder in order to accomplish something, and that's really not truly the case. It's going, okay, what am I doing and what could I do differently to make this outcome better? And I think that's really cool that you're doing that, even if it's not producing the desired results that you want. You have the capability of making the desired results with those pieces of the recipe. So we're going to jump back a little bit, and I want to hear a little bit about young Ken and growing up and where you went to school, what that looked like for you. What was it that you wanted to do? What was it that you saw for yourself? And then tell us a little bit about that journey and like
So,
where things had to shift.
so when you were talking about resilience, I think there's places I'll put myself in for people to understand where I'm coming from, that I feel I'm very almost stereotypical of those populations. That if you would say, what is something you'd expect of somebody who's from this group, I fit that, right? One of them is I believe I've never been diagnosed with it, but I have ADHD. And not, oh my God, I can't function in society, but the hyperfixations, the trouble controlling emotions, the way that that mind works is a lot of times when your mind operates a little bit differently like that, it makes it very hard to feel like you're fitting in with everyone around you. Because there is and especially from back in the day, we were obviously a lot more aware of that people's minds work differently nowadays. Whereas back in the day, ADHD was sit down and shut up. So that's a thing so when you do feel that way and you do constantly feel like there's something just a little bit wrong with you, it teaches you to know that things are just going to be a little bit different in general. So it becomes easier. I have plans for everything, and I get upset when the plans don't work out, but I hardly ever expect the plans to work out completely. The other population, though, that I fit really in, and this will help, is I'm Gen X, and I'm very Gen X. I'm sarcastic. I'm independent. I was a latchkey kid. I know I'm of the generation that nobody is coming to save you. You better save yourself. And I strongly identify with those aspects of Gen X. So you asked about, I used to like to tell people that I could put my resume up against any tragedy, because on paper, I can make the case that I had a horrible life. So my mother was 18 when she had me. So I was conceived out of wedlock. Since it was the 70s, there wasn't really as much just single mother as there would be. So my parents were more or less forced to get married. It was not a good marriage. My father left when I was in second grade. I was raised by grandparents a lot because my mother was working. I struggled in school because I just didn't really care. Not that I didn't care about school, school didn't engage me because my mind was working in a different way than the other people's were. And back then they wouldn't say, okay, let's figure out an adaptive way to teach you. They'd just say, figure it out, which again, I would just have to figure it out then. I grew up in a part of Pittsburgh that's now considered bad. So I always say, if I just say here, I grew up in Observatory Hill. My dad left when I was in second grade. I was conceived out of wedlock. Both of my parents had struggles with addiction. My father was in and out of jail a number of times. I can say, I can lay all this stuff out. Look at this American tragedy. I've never at once felt that I've had a bad life, though. I love my childhood. I think very fondly of my childhood. My office is filled with relics and mementos to my childhood. I don't want to, I feel bad for myself in moments, but overall, I just don't ever feel bad for myself because as mm, crappy as I might have it, and as much as things didn't go how I would hope, they've still gone well. So, like I said, I struggled in grade school because I was not always engaged with it. There would be if they hit a topic that I liked, I could have taught the class. But if we were on to something I didn't care about, I was staring out the window daydreaming. So I was the classic, and I mentioned the ADHD thing because one of the classic things with ADHD, and that I said before about the working smarter, working harder, is something I heard my entire life growing up. And I think when I hit 18, I said, if anyone ever says this to me again, I'm just going to haul off and punch them. And that was, you're so smart. If only you worked a little harder. And I always wanted to say, hey, do you ever go to the dumb people and say, man, you're such a hard worker. If only you weren't such a moron. But that's the thing. Look, I get it. I like to think I have a pretty quick mind and I retain information and can access it pretty well. But I don't have the emotional intelligence of having that great internal drive. I get time blind at times and that sort of thing. So I have struggles and I have advantages. And I just always was very put off by the fact that people would say, hey, you have this advantage. If you just not have this struggle, you'd be great. And I'm like, do you ever say that to other people who have, and man, you're really hardworking, but too bad you're never going to rise above this level because you're just not smart enough. You would never say that to someone. And I just always thought it was so weird that they'd be like, basically saying, well, you're smart, too bad you're lazy. Okay, you're a hard worker, too bad you're an idiot. So that's something that really shaped me because I hated hearing that. And it's not, I'm happy to work as hard as anybody else. I just need to be engaged with it. And that's hard. So if we were doing a thing where we're talking about, I remember in second to third grade, we had a thing about the planets, about the solar system. And I went to a Catholic grade school. So they were talking about it in relation to the Star of Bethlehem. And I had spent an entire summer at the Buell Planetarium in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, nope, this is why this happens. And I was like correcting my teacher because I was engaged in it. A week later, we had moved on to biology or something. And I'm back to just staring at my desk thinking about Godzilla the whole time because I'm not engaged with it anymore. So that's been probably the great struggle of my life. You asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. Nothing realistic. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was a little kid because I wanted to work with dinosaurs. And then when I got older, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball umpire. I never was like, I want to be a fireman or I want to be a nurse or I want to be something that I might actually be. And as a result, I never actually became something that I might actually be. Like I said, I've floated around to a bunch of careers and just kind of made it work. This will actually probably blow your mind. I was a very shy kid. I was not,
That does blow my mind.
yeah, not introverted, but I was an only child. So I didn't have somebody to just constantly be yelling with and doing stuff with. And because my mother was a nurse and was until she retired, so she had to work ridiculous hours because back then you were doing a lot of you do a lot of shift work in nursing. So she was doing 16-hour overnight shifts and working weekends. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, just having to entertain myself. My great grandmother is maybe the greatest person who ever lived. And she did everything she possibly could. She would sit on the floor and play Star Wars with me and all that. But it's not the same when you're an 8-year-old boy. You don't really want to hang out with your 60-year-old. I did. She was wonderful, but she's not your favorite playmate.
Right.
So as a result of that, I just learned to be kind of quiet and just do my own thing. And then when puberty finally rolls around, then I was hit with the additional layer of, oh, if you say the wrong thing, you're going to be embarrassed. Everyone will laugh at you and no one will ever like you and girls won't like you. And it wasn't until about halfway through high school that I kind of realized, hey, I can be funny. I can be loud. I can make people laugh. I can stay. And then it wasn't until college when I'm like, yeah. And also I don't really care if people don't think what I say is goofy or if make a mistake while I'm talking. It's because I've watched for the past 20 some years of everyone else sound goofy when they talk and make mistakes. And it was probably about then that I started realizing, hey, maybe asking a girl out and getting told no wouldn't be the end of the world either. I didn't date in high school at all. I had what kids today would call, and by kids today, kids from 10 years ago would call zero game, where I could be the best friends with a girl all day long and we could talk and be inseparable. But at the point that I'm like, I think I like her. Nope. I don't know what to say. I'm scared to death to say it. So it was a long time. So probably more than anything, what I've really struggled with, and it's going to seem weird to you, is confidence. Whereas I seem like I probably have a lot of confidence in myself. But when I was young, I didn't. I had zero. And it was a number of factors. But that's, I think, probably been my journey, even though it's included multiple colleges, multiple jobs, that sort of thing, multiple hobbies. My real journey in life has been understanding why my mind works a little differently than everyone else's. Accepting that it's not a bad thing, and then figuring out how to make it work. And that's something that I'm still in the process of.
I think that many people struggle with confidence. I don't think that's exclusive. I think we can exude confidence on the outside, but then on the inside, question ourselves and question different paths and what's happening within our lives. So I don't necessarily think that's just a reality for Ken.
Oh,
That's a very common thing. But I love that you have really overcome a lot of the things that you've feared as far as realizing and recognizing that within yourself at a young age. Hey, I've got to kind of put myself out here. I'm funny and I can have conversations, and you have definitely have the gift of gab. So, we know that. And I think that you are doing very well. And hopefully you feel differently now as far as your confidence level is concerned to recognize that what you're doing and just the person that you are and what you bring to the table is valued, and that you have contributed in a big way, whether you see that or not.
no, I want to be clear. I am very self-deprecating, but I don't think poorly of myself or anything. I appreciate you saying that. I heard a term a while ago, and I don't know if I embrace it, but being an introverted extrovert, I'm great. You've seen it. I'm good in a crowd. If I'm feeling it, I can make everyone laugh. I'm willing. I've stood on stage and delivered spontaneous off the cuff remarks to hundreds of people before. I have no problem with any of that. But then I'll also lay in bed at night and replay something stupid that I said in a conversation for an hour, unable to sleep because I feel like such an idiot for saying it. But nobody is, even if you're good at something, nobody's perfect at anything. So even this stuff, even I'm good at being a public speaker, I'm good at having confidence, I'm good at being bombastic, but that doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. And there's a lot of times that jokes don't land, or it's not the right mood, or I don't have the right headspace to be that person that day. But then that's where you still feel those self-doubts sneak
Mhm.
in. It's funny because I will give people a lot of grace. So I talked about my father before, and my dad is not a bad person. My dad is not somebody who should have been a father. He got my mother pregnant when he was 19. He just wanted to run and party. My childhood was bailing him out of jail, picking up from the emergency room, him not being there, stuff like all this. Oh, horrible, right? He's just a horrible father. And he got remarried and had my brothers. I have two stepbrothers and a stepsister who I consider just siblings. I'm very close with my brothers. My sister lives out of state. And he stayed longer in their lives. He was with their mother until they were in high school, and he probably had a more devastating effect on them than he did on me. As much as he wasn't a great father, I've never blamed, I wish he would have been better. I feel bad that he wasn't. I've never blamed him for being a bad parent because I understand the situation that he was in. And I know that his parents were not very good. What's a 19-year-old guy, what's he going to do when he didn't have good parenting modeled for him? And now and it's the same thing. My mother she'll say, I was such a bad mother to you because I didn't know what I was doing. And I'll say, yeah, what you did here was wrong, but you were a 22-year-old woman who finished nursing school while you were taking care of a toddler. And we never needed any sort of I always had food. I always had clothes. She did everything she needed to do. She was a young kid who was trying to figure out her way in life. I'm currently the number 2 person in my organization, and our director went away 2 weeks ago, and so I was in charge, and I'm just like, oh God, I hope nobody actually asked me a question. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm 51, and this is a job. She's 22 and had a human life to be in charge of. So how am I gonna to come down on her for whatever deficit she had as a mother, or even my dad when the situations they were in were horrible? So I'm good at and I've had friendships that have gone to the side. There's a guy that I was really good friends with about 15, 20, 25 years ago. And he just dropped off the face of the earth to all of our friends. I ran into him about 2 years ago and he said, "Hey man, I'm sorry about I'm sorry things were just weird in my life." And I said, "Okay. No, you don't have to. That's your story, dude. If your story wants to involve me again, then let's talk about it. Let's figure it out." So I'm good at extending that grace to other people. I'm not really good at extending to myself. I'm, I like to beat myself up about things. I like to let what we would call the intrusive comments win occasionally. And that's something you talked about masking it with being not masking it, but can be extroverted and extremely confident in one situation. And then in other times I just sit there and don't think I have any clue what I'm doing or what I should do. But it all comes back to say that I've never had this linear path. And while I've always felt bad that I've had that feeling that I felt bad that I'm not walking the same path that it seems like everyone else has. Throughout it all, I've been able to walk a pretty parallel path, if that makes sense. So what I refer to as the big tragedy of my life is that my wife and I weren't able to have children. And it sucks. Society, when you're a couple without children, society looks at you like, why?
Yeah.
And that's a hole that's left in your life. And it's been a struggle. When my friends had kids, like I didn't give a shit about their guy. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear, but I didn't care about my friends' kids because I wasn't able to experience it with them. The past few years, I've worked on strengthening the relationships I have with my nieces and nephews and leaning into the fact that, if you don't have kids, you know what you do have? Money and free time. So
Well,
I
that's
have
true.
lots of that. I don't have kids. I have a lot of really cool vintage Star Wars toys, and I don't have kids, but we're going on our anniversary and we have an oceanfront swim out suite. And so the big thing has been extending the grace to myself that even though we don't have kids, we can still have a great life. That even though I don't have the same life that my friends do or that I envision myself having, that doesn't mean that it's wrong or it's a failure in some way, that it just means that it's different. And as long as it's still good, then it's still good. And that's easy to say, but I'm sure a lot of people out there will know that it's hard to really appreciate what you have when you're in the middle of it. It's easier to almost look back and go, "Oh man, 5 years ago, everything was so wonderful." But I guarantee 5 years ago, you were thinking everything's on fire and everything's awful. You need that perspective to realize that things aren't actually that bad in a lot of cases. And so what I'm trying to work on is bringing that perspective more forward so that it might never get to the point where I can feel that perspective in the moment. But if I can keep that perspective from having bad thoughts haunt me, then it makes it a lot easier. I say all the time, if you were born in the United States in 2026, you have hit the humanity lottery. You're not worrying about shelter. You're not worrying about predators. If you're not worrying about shelter, predators, or where your clean water is coming from, you automatically have a leg up on 95% of humanity's history, right?
Yes.
I think have always had the perspective that no matter how bad things were for me, and my wife Kelly says all the time, pain is pain. Just because your pain is from a broken finger might not hurt as much as a broken hand, but they still hurt. They both hurt, and no one should diminish your broken finger. Just because my life, I talked about my resume in the beginning and how I have this tragic origin. Just because my parents divorced, or just because I struggled with whatever, that's okay. I still have a good life. I wasn't neglected, or I don't have the tragedies in my life are very manageable tragedies. And some people have it a lot worse. And it's hard when you're in the moment to have that perspective. But and people are going to be surprised if you know me, because I'm certainly not a sunshine, lollipops, and rainbow unicorns kind of guy. But I really do feel like I'm in a pretty good place. And it's just hard to remember that sometimes. It's hard to remember how good things are when things are bad.
Yeah. I love just even in the conversation with the fact that you haven't been able to have children, the resilience and the pivot that has happened in your life in that regard as well. And I also just love the concept of looking at everybody and realizing that it's everybody's first time around the sun. And we've all are living our lives for the first time and are trying to make the most of it in the best way that we know how. And sure, we're going to all make mistakes. Sure, some of those mistakes are going to be worse than others. But the grace that you've given the people in your life that you could have completely written off and said, "You did this to me," and "How horrible is my life?" And you haven't done that. And there is growth in that. There is growth in that path. And I think that it's really important for our listeners to hear the journey that you've been on and what you've gone through and what you've experienced. And you've really, I don't know that we've met the Ken that has accomplished everything yet, but I feel like it's coming for you, right? There's these opportunities that whatever it is that you're going to shine at, and maybe it's here, maybe it's the podcast. Maybe is the opportunity that is exciting for me to watch for you and to hope to share with our listeners, to realize it's not all about accomplishing the moon and the stars, but it's the journey. And I just think that's so valuable.
I think one thing that I've come to realize is, for me and for the way I process the world, the journey is always going to be more important because I don't spend a lot of time in the destinations, because I'm always, I don't want to say there's this term dopamine seeking. They say that's why social media, because it gives you those little dopamine hits. I'm not dopamine seeking in life, but I definitely become bored easily. I look back and I'm like, I was at this job for 8 years and I was great at it. Why am I not there anymore? You know why? It was because by about year 7, I was pretty bored of it. And I stopped I mean, and as I said before, if I'm not engaged in it, it's not getting my maximum effort. So that's been hard because I have bounced around to careers, and especially hard on my wife, obviously, because she is, like I said, she was raised a little bit different. She's been a nurse since I met her, and that's what she is right now. It's the same thing with my mom. She's been a nurse her whole life. I've had 72 different job titles. My wife went to one school. I went to, so just in case, so about anybody who's watching, I'm a fellow alumni of Grove City, of CCAC, of the University of Pittsburgh, of Slippery Rock, and of South University. So if you've gone to any of those schools, we have that in common. And it took me, so 5 schools to get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. My bachelor's degree is in communications. My master's degree is in leadership. They are 2 skills that every job needs. They are also 2 skills that no job requests. Nobody ever says, "Oh, we need somebody with a background in the communications." No, so it's just in and of itself. I'm starting to realize I don't think I was ever actually meant to be anywhere. That even if, I think the biggest thing is I've started to realize that even if there is a quote unquote normal path that some other people walk, that's probably wasn't the path that I was meant to walk. And it doesn't sound like a path that I want to walk. And accepting that is not wrong has been a big part in just accepting that life is the way it is. Other than that, the only other thing that people should really know about me is I excel at trivia. I have a massive bank of useless knowledge that puts grok to shame, and I'm really good at games. So between all the weird emotional baggage that I just dumped on you, the little history lesson, I promise you don't want to try to take me on in risk. It's going to go badly for you.
I'll take the challenge. I'll probably lose, but I'll take the challenge.
As I'm currently sitting here, I'm looking at 4 different versions of Risk that I own. Me and my friends used to play that to the point of almost fist fighting each other. But no, that's, so where am I right now? On any given night, I sit on our back porch with my wife and our dog while he runs around the yard, and we play games together next to our hot tub. And
that's a beautiful life.
Right.
That's
and for everything
beautiful.
else that might be a problem, I was just talking to my boss before I told her, before I put my out of office message up, I will take care of this. And she said, "Don't worry about it. It's not that important." And I said, "That's wonderful. Thank you." Because it's not. and realizing that I have a great job. I love my job. I love my boss. And what we do is important work. We help people do volunteer work. So just in case you're wondering what I do, I work for an organization called Pittsburgh Cares. I'm the director of community programs, and we exist to make volunteering easier. Our main thrust is we help people 55 and older find volunteer opportunities. I love my job.
Super special.
But it's not like
that
I'm
you
not
do that.
mapping the human genome. I'm not defending the borders. It's an important thing. But even if your job is you work for the frosty machine at McDonald's, if you like it, then that's great. And
Yeah.
I love my job right now. I'm very happy with it. And I feel like when I was a kid, so you asked me, what was Kid Ken? And I wouldn't say this out loud to people. People would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, oh, I want to be this or that or the other thing. And at some point I said, I want to be a writer. And everyone's, oh, that's great because you're such a good writer. And I used to think to myself, no, what I want to be is a novelist because I want to work for 1 month every 3 years. I want to find so literally I would think to myself, what would be a perfect job? It would be a job that I like doing, that I don't have to actually go into the office every day, that it's always something different. And that's what I have right now. And this isn't what I thought. I thought that was going to be being an umpire or being a novelist or anything. I didn't think, no, you're going to find a job in a random nonprofit and it's going to be great and it's going to be everything you want. And so for the past few years, a lot of the zigs and the zags in the journey of the path has straightened a little bit. And that's great. There's still stuff, but then just a couple months ago, I broke a bone for the first time. And now now I'm going to Mexico with a splint on my finger, like a big goof. And you know what? That's okay. I'll probably be down there. And at some point, I'm probably going to pivot to pulling the splint off my finger so I can go in the ocean. And that's fine. And I'll deal. And one of two things will happen. I'll be fine or I won't be. And then I'll deal with the consequences of it. But that's life. Or at least that's my life.
I love the positive outlook on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me throw one last thing. Oh, that's
Okay.
almost time. But if I can give people a piece of advice, is just to remember that, like you said, we're all on the earth going around for the first time. Nobody out there is Superman. I've drank beer with the governor of Pennsylvania before. I've met famous people, and they are the same people as we all are. And I think remembering that, so not only do I need to remember that no one's meant to do anything, but no one's special just because they do something. Everyone's still the same person. Nobody has superpowers or anything like that. And when you realize that everyone else is just trying to figure it out like you are, it makes it a little bit easier to extend them grace, but also a little bit easier to extend yourself some grace.
I agree. We're going to wrap with that. So thank you, Ken. That was awesome.
I took us right up to the
You
timeline.
did. You pushed it right up to the limit. I do have a quote for the day. And
Absolutely.
this is special just for you because I know that you are a lover of Marvel and DC Comics. So our quote comes from Iron Man. Heroes are made by the path they choose, not the powers they are graced with.
It's a very
fitting.
Very
Yeah.
Iron Man quote. When you got to make your own superpowers, you have a different perspective. And that's
Exactly.
humanity, right? We all have to make our own superpowers.
Yes. Yeah. I'll let you take us out.
All right. Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking with you today, Kim.
Thank
And
you.
for everyone
Ken.
else, thank you for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring for you, or I hope you didn't come up with too much of the impression that, oh my God, this guy has some real problems. But even if you did, that's okay, because what we're here to do is share stories, and we're not trying to change your life. We're just trying to make things a little bit better. Thanks for listening to the Grace and Growth Podcast. I'm Ken, that's Kim, and we'll see you next time.